What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and today I'm going to take you through the most comprehensive WNBA preview for all the player props you need for this upcoming 3-game slate. If it's your first time checking out the channel, I encourage you to subscribe because I do this every single day. I share my screen. We go through Outlier. I take you through all the plays that I like. We talk about matchups, form lines, fantasy, odds, what I like, what I don't, all the type of jazz that you would like to see. I got you covered. And I do all this to give you all the information that you need to make the best bets possible. Now, if that sounds interesting, let's go. All right, so we're jumping into Outlier. We've got 3 games to get through. There's a lot of props available. So hopefully we can find some value. Hopefully we can find something for a parlay. 3 games. We'll kick it off with the first one. And that game is the Connecticut Suns versus the Washington Mystics. So the spread in this one is 12.5. Connecticut Suns are your favorites. My Lord. Let's talk about the Mystics for a second. They're still looking for their first win of the season. They're looking to avoid a 0-9 start. In terms of their key players that we're going to look at, Ariel Atkins, Shakira Austin, Carly Samuelson, and Julie Van Loo. We'll take a look at those. And for the Connecticut Suns, looking for a 6th home win to remain undefeated on the season. They're looking for their first 9-0 start. So 2 teams sitting on the opposite side of the table. The players leading the Connecticut Suns, DeWanna Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, Dejounte Carrington, and Brianna Jones. So be sure to check all them out. We might even look into others as well. In terms of the injury report, Mariah Jefferson's going to be missing for Connecticut, and the Mystics still going to be without Brittany Sykes and Shakira Austin. In terms of the prediction and how this game goes, well, the Connecticut Suns, definitely the much better team, obvious by their records. But they have been big favorites all season long. If you're looking at the spread data, they've covered the spread in 3 out of their 8 games, and only 2 of their last 7. The Washington Mystics obviously don't win games, but they do have a better record covering the spread. 4-3-1. They've hung around with a lot of these teams. And look, if you look at the Suns, their last 8 games where they've been double-digit favorites, they've only covered the spread 5 times. So the game could be a little bit closer than that 12.5 suggests, which is good for our player props. But let's jump into these player props real quick. Oh, actually, I just remembered something real quick. Let's hold up, pumping the brakes real quick. I need you guys to do me a favor and do yourself a favor. I want you to download Dabble Fantasy right now. There's a link for it in the video description below. Dabble Fantasy is one of the new fantasy apps in America. And the great thing about Dabble Fantasy is they have something called the 1000x multiplier. So for the first time in DFS gaming history, you have the opportunity to use a 1000x multiplier exclusively on Dabble. So feel free to check Dabble out, sign up with the code DAFT, or use the link in the video description below, and Dabble's going to throw you $10 to say thank you. You can throw that $10 on the 1000x and try to win yourself $10,000 if you want to, and hopefully I get to help you do that. So let's jump straight back into Outline, get straight into this game. So who did we say we want to look through? We want to go through let's go through the Mystics first, shall we? They are on the road. The key ones to look through, Ariel Atkins, probably the one where I want to start with. So Outlier, filtering these props by the highest odds, and it's actually an under for Ariel Atkins in her assists. But let's just go through all these, actually. Her points line, 14.5 points. This season, she's covered this in 5 out of her last 8. Has a tough matchup. The Connecticut Suns, they allow the fewest points in the league so far this season. She's averaging 13.7. Line is at 14.5. And if you look at historical form, she's versed the Connecticut Suns 5 times in the last year. And she's gone under this line in all 5 games. But what's different? 27.5 minutes per game against the Suns. And if we look at this season, 32.2 minutes, 13.1 attempts. In previous games, 9.8. So she's getting more minutes. She's getting more opportunities, taking more shots. But I got to be honest, I'm probably still leaning to the under here. Now, I'm not solely using Outlier to make my predictions, being completely honest with you guys. So the other tool that I'm looking at right now as I multitask is the WNBA stats page. So I'll share that with you so you can see what I see real quick. So this is just the team stat page. And what I like about this page is I can see how teams defend certain positions. So, for example, we're looking at the points prop, and we know that the Connecticut Suns allow the fewest points in the league, right? But if we want to break it down by position, if we look at guards specifically, the Connecticut Suns, they allow the fifth most points to guards. So even though they might give up less points overall against guards, they have been a little bit leaky. 45 points per game against guards. And if we want to look at starting guards only, because we're only looking at star players, the Connecticut Suns are sitting 7th. So they're allowing 32.3 points per game to starting guards. And if we think about who the starting guards are for this team, we have Ariel Atkins, obviously, but they do run a 3-guard lineup: Ariel Atkins, Samuelson, and Van Loo. So, yeah, it could be a little bit difficult to get a call out, but this is one tool that I'm also using as I make my predictions for the WNBA. But I personally, just looking at this, I'd probably lean to the under. The under's only cashed in 3 out of 8 games, but this is a difficult matchup for her. She's played the Connecticut Suns once already this season. She scored 8 points in that game. She did get 33 minutes. She did take 12 shots, but she only shot 3 out of 12. So 25% from the field. So they made life difficult for her. One of her more difficult games that she's had this season. Just checking to see the field goal percentage, perhaps, if there's any leans or numbers into that. So if we look at starting guards versus the Connecticut Suns, they're shooting 42%, which is, again, top 5, really. So it's not like they're shutting them down there. Allowing 32 points per game to starting guards, which puts them in the bottom half defensively, really. So that's not giving me too much information, but I'd probably be leaning to the under. If we look at an assist prop, it's at 3. She's averaging 3.3 on the season. Against the Connecticut Suns, she's covered this she's hit 3 on the dot in all 5 of her games. The last game she played against them, she recorded 7 assists, which is pretty wild. So that's not a bad look. On the season, though, she only covered 3 out of 8. So on the road as well, what are we looking at here? On the road, she's actually covered this in 3 out of 4 road. Oh, actually, that's a lie. That is a lie. 3 out of 5, I think. Yeah. So she's played 5 road games this season. She's covered this line 3 times. She is averaging 4 assists on the road. So I'd have to lean to the over here. Take the 3. You still get a chance to get a push. The 3.5 is plus money, so I'm assuming the 2.5 is going to be juiced to the max. But yeah, it's not a bad look, I'd say. Her rebound line is at 4.5. She's covered this in 4 consecutive games. She's averaging 4.25 rebounds on the season, and against the Connecticut Suns, she's covered this in 1 out of her last 5 games. So I wonder why has it the last 4 that she's really covered. I know on RotoWire they have it listed at the 3. Is that a recent thing? So that I'm not too sure of, but if you have some information on that, then that could explain why she's getting more boards. Unless she's always played the 3, then I'll go fuck myself. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts on Ariel Atkins. Not taking any of the bets on her, but hopefully we can find some bangers. Who else do we got here? Let's take a look at Shakira Austin. So Shakira Austin doesn't have any props available, and that is because she's out. How good. All right. So Shakira Austin being out means there's going to be opportunities for somebody else. But let's have a look at Carly Samuelson. We got ourselves a white girl. So Carly Samuelson should be playing at the other guard spot by the looks of it, probably the 2-guard position. And her points line's at 9.5 this season, 8 games, 9.7 as an average. She scored 18 points the last time she came up against the Connecticut Suns. And it looks like that was the only time she came up against the Connecticut Suns. Did not play them last season. So Carly Samuelson this season, 28.7 minutes per game. So her minutes are somewhat consistent. Her field goal attempts averaging 8.1. That last game against Connecticut, she only took 8 shots, but she made 7 of them. She made 4 from 5 3-pointers, which is pretty wild. So I wouldn't expect that again. There's going to be some regression. But will she score enough to cover 9.5? That I am unsure of. Her 3-point line is at 1.5. She's gone under this in 5 consecutive games. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not too sure about that. I'm just checking WNBA.com. So the Connecticut Suns, they allow the lowest 3-point percentage towards starting guards, 29% from three. So someone like Carly Samuelson with her shot profile, they're probably good at defending her. Another tool that I'm using at the same time, I'll show it to you, is Props Madness. So this is a really cool tool. It's a free tool as well, but they have it for the WNBA, so you can see their play style and stuff like that. So if we look at Carly Samuelson, so we don't actually have the data loaded yet, unfortunately. Actually, I got playoff data. My bad. We got it all. So this is Carly Samuelson and her profile. This is so far this season. And what we can see from Carly Samuelson, she scores a majority of her points on spot-up shooting, 39% of her points. A bit of free throws, a bit off the screen, and a bit as a pick-and-roll ball handler. But as a spot-up shooter, she does score the majority of her points that way. And the Connecticut Suns, top 2 in the team defending that. This box here lets us know where she shoots from. So she scores a lot of her points above the break from the 3-point line. The Connecticut Suns, number 1 at defending that area of the court. So yeah, not loving what I'm seeing from Carly Samuelson here. Let's have a quick look at Ariel Atkins. And she does score above the break as well, but gets into the mid-range, gets to the hoop. So the weak points for this Connecticut Suns, if there is one, is right around the rim. A bit of the mid-range, 7th is mid, but then in that corner as well. So yeah, not loving what I'm seeing from either of those girls, but yeah, so we'll pass on them both. Who else we got in this? Let's have a look at Julie Van Loo. My God, I took her under an assist. That's why I remember her name. And I got hooked by half an assist. So her points prop, 8.5 for Julie, 4 from 8 this season. There's no historical data, so I'm assuming this girl's a rookie, but I've been wrong before. Head-to-head, scored 12 points in that last matchup against Connecticut Suns. She plays 24.4 minutes, 7.9 attempts. So the shots will be there. She took 9 attempts against them last time, made 5 of them, 56% from the field, one of the best shooting output she's put on the season. 36% from 3, so she takes about 5.8 of those per year. So there's nothing really screaming out to me there for Julie Van Loo. Having a quick look at Props Madness to see how she scores her points. And yeah, it's not great. 73% of her points above the break, but she does score as the pick and roll ball handler. So that's not too bad off some screens. And the Connecticut Suns, not necessarily the best at defending that type of play style. So Julie Van Loo, I don't hate that. I don't hate the prop for Julie Van Loo, believe it or not, based on her play style and the potential there to get some points. She's averaging 8.7. We need 8.5. She's gone under in 2 straight now. And in 8 games this season, hasn't put 2 poor games together. She hasn't put 3 poor scoring games back to back yet this season. So I don't know. I might be getting a little bit spicy with it, but what I'm going to say here is I don't hate that play for Julie Van Loo. So let me put that on my short list, and we see how that goes. Let's take a look at her assist prop. 5.5. She's covered in 3 out of her last 8 games. Last game against Connecticut Suns, they lost by 7, but she had 8 assists in that game. So she's averaging 5.6. So the line set right around her averages. That 8 assists does seem like a bit of an outlier against the Connecticut Suns, who do give up the fewest assists. So at 5.5, I probably does not want to play it, if I'm being honest with you. So I'll have to pass on that. And then just think, is there anyone else out of Julie Van Loo? We've gone through Carly. Just checking. We got Edwards and Dolson, the other starters. So we'll have a quick look at them. Aaliyah Edwards, we've got no props available. Stephanie Dolson, we've got her points prop available. So her points prop's at 8.5. Stephanie Dolson, she's covered this in 4 out of her last 8, averaging 7.6. She's getting about 23 minutes per game, only taking 5 shots though. Cash has a few 3-pointers. So Stephanie Dolson, she's a big by the looks of it. Having a look at her profile and Props Madness. So even though she's a big, she scores 72% of her buckets above the break as a spot-up shooter. So there's a whole lot of catch and shoot bullshit happening around this Mystics team, I'll tell you that. So, yeah, I'm not interested in taking any of these spot-up shooters. I think Van Loo's probably the only look I have based on her ability to score in the pick and roll as a key ball handler. Other than that, the rest of the girls can get stuffed. Let's take a look at these Connecticut Suns. We'll start with Duana Bonner. Let's check your girl out. Let's have a look at her points prop. 19.5 we're getting on this one. So her points line, 19.5. She's gone under in 4 straight games. The Mystics allow the third most points on the season. 4 out of her last 8, she's averaging 19 points per game. The last time she played them, she scored 22 points. She's actually covered this in 3 out of 5 games against the Washington Mystics. So, yeah, with players like her, I think the line's usually going to be set at around 19.5. Well, it has been since I've been looking at it. So I can't really give you an indication as to why I would take the over. I'm looking at Props Madness to see what's her profile like. And Duana Bonner, she does score 19% of her points from free throws. And this Mystics team does give up a whole lot of free throws, the most in the league. She scores in transition, which is a weak spot for the Mystics as well. Cutting to the basket as a pick and roll ball handler and the spot up. So her shooting profile is, and her scoring profile is right where you would need it to be. This Mystics team, they're only really good at defending in the restricted area. But outside of that, they're pretty mid. Everybody else, pretty weak in the mid range too, believe it or not. So, yeah, Duana Bonner, I don't hate the points prop. I don't like that she hasn't covered it in 4 straight games. If we have a look at her attempts, haven't necessarily been high enough to cover 20 points. Shooting some threes, but not very well at 25%. And her free throw rate is on the way down. So I wouldn't be surprised if it goes back up again in this game, but I'll probably have to pass on Bonner's points. Her rebound line's at 5, 4 out of the last 8, 5.3 as an average. So if we look at head to head, yeah, 1 out of 5. So I'm not loving this either, to be honest. Might have to pass on old Bonzo over here. So let's get into the next one. Not feeling her. We then have Alyssa Thomas, Mrs. Triple Double. Let's check her out. Her point sign at 14.5.
Pumping the brakes real quick, and I am sorry to interrupt you once again, but I do need your help. On the top of my to-do list is to create a sports betting course for all of you guys based on all of the coaching conversations I've had and a lot of questions I get asked. This course seems like it's going to be a winner, but I need your help to help me determine what goes into it and how much I price this thing for. So in the video description below, you're going to see a link to a survey. It only takes a few minutes to complete. If you can complete that survey, help me get this sports betting course off the ground. Thank you. Let's get back to the preview. Let's go.
All right. 3 out of 8 games this season, averaging 13.7. 34 minutes a night, almost 9 attempts. If we look at the head-to-head matchups, 3 out of 5 games against Washington she's got over. They last played this season, and she scored 13 points, but she only took 7 shot attempts. So that leaves me a little bit hesitant to take any plays on Alyssa Thomas. Quick look at her scoring profile, and she scores all of her points really in the paint. That is all she's doing. Gets to the free throw line, runs in transition, but gets a whole lot at the basket. And if we look at the Mystics, they rank second in the whole league. So they allow the second fewest points at the basket within the restricted area, which is where Alyssa Thomas happens to score 63% of her baskets. So, yeah, I'd probably have to lean to the under in her points prop here. Sweet old Alyssa Thomas. The concern is that she got the ball in her hands all the time, but the under has cashed in 5 out of her last 8. So I guess that's what my casual analysis tells me anyway. So that's probably a lean. Let's have a look at the rest of her props though, because we know she can do it all. Her assist line is at 8. She had 11 in her last game. She's covered this in 4 out of 8 games. 6 assists the last time she played the Washington Mystics. She's gone under this, though, in 5 consecutive games against the Mystics. And Washington, although they allow a lot of points, they don't allow many assists. 4th fewest assists in the league so far this season. So Alyssa Thomas, her assist line, I think it was 8.5 last time I had a look. Yeah, so the under could be on the cards here. Historical performance and the matchup, but you don't want to fade great players. You don't want to take the under in their assists when she's somewhat renowned for that. So I'll pass on that. Her rebounds line, 9.5 boards. She's covered this in 4 out of 8 games, 9.6 as her average so far this season. Head to head against the Mystics, she had 11 rebounds when they last played, and she's got great form. She's covered this in 4 out of her last 5 games against the Washington Mystics. So, man, I like that. I like Alyssa Thomas to get some boards today. Let's go. All right. Let's take a look. Who else we got up in this team for Connecticut? Dejounte Carrington and Brianna Jones are the ones I want to look at. Let's go with Brianna. All right. So Brianna Jones, we'll start with her points prop. It's right at 15. So she's covered this in 4 of her last 8 games this season, 13.1 as an average, 4 out of her last 5. Brianna Jones, minutes a little bit inconsistent though. I don't like that. Averaging 9.3 shot attempts per game. Quick look at props madness to see what Brianna Jones is doing. 14.5 is the line on there. We can see she scores a lot of her points. She doesn't shoot threes pretty much. A lot within the restricted area. She scores a lot in the paint, but even in the mid-range as well. So she can post it up, she can spot up, she can cut, she can put back, she can get free throws, she can do the lot. So Brianna Jones, I'd say, has a pretty good matchup in this game. When they last played, she's only scored 7 points, but she only took 5 attempts. In that game, she only played 20 minutes. So, yeah, I think the matchup for Brianna is good. The question is she going to take shots? And that's the thing I don't know a lot about these WNBA players. A lot of these girls very inconsistent. You could bet her over, and she probably won't even get close to 10. But the minutes in the last 2 have been up. They have been good. I'm just thinking, Mariah Jefferson. Who the hell is she? Mariah Jefferson. So Mariah Jefferson. All right, I know she plays on this team. 30 years old. She's a guard though, so I don't think she's going to impact old Brianna Jones minutes. She's a forward. Unless we get Alyssa Thomas playing big. But yeah, so that leaves me a little bit hesitant to look at her points. Let's have a look at her rebounds. Her line's at 7.5, which is quite high because she's gone under in 8 consecutive games this season. Am I missing something? In head-to-head matchups, she's only covered in 1 out of 3 games against Washington. So rebound line at 7.5. The Connecticut Suns are only they're missing Abby and Mariah Jefferson. I don't think either of those are bigs. Who's this? Abby Sue? She didn't even make the roster. Didn't attend training camp, so it's not her. She ain't making any impact to this team. And then Mariah Jefferson, my quick Google search told me that she's a guard anyway, so that's not going to impact Brianna Jones. So I wonder, I'm just thinking there, if you can let me know in the comment section, why the hell is Brianna Jones, her rebound line at 7.5? Because the under just makes so much sense. Well, I guess history tells us she can rebound quite well. Check this out. 2023, Brianna Jones went over in 10 out of 13 games. She's playing 31 minutes a night. So Brianna Jones seems like a great rebounder. She just hasn't been rebounding well so far this season. But it looks like the last 2 games, her minutes are back up, almost in line with what she was getting last season. So it could just be that. Brianna Jones, a good rebounder, bouncing back to form. Let's take a look at Dejounte Carrington. So her points line's at 13.5. She's covered this in 5 out of 8 games this season. What's she doing? 30 minutes a night. A little bit inconsistent, but 30 minutes a night, 11.5 attempts per game. Her attempts are going down, though, so that concerns me a bit. The last game she played against the Washington Mystics was a high-scoring game of the season where she scored 21 points. So 18 shot attempts, which is just wild. So that could be a thing. 3 games against Washington. The one this season, she went off. The other 2 games, didn't get many minutes, didn't take many shots. So I don't know. Could it be something about Dejounte Carrington and her playing style and something perhaps? Checking props madness right now. And we can see Dejanay Carrington scores a lot of points in the bucket, in the paint, in the restricted area, and just in the paint in general. She scores a lot in transition, getting to the free throw line, and a little bit with spot up shooting. So, yeah, her play style, I guess it makes sense for her to do well against this team, but I think we're going to need more than just play style alone to take that bet for Dejanay. But yeah, 5 out of her last 8 is not too bad. 13.5. It makes sense. 11.5 attempts. All right, let's check Dejanay's rebound line. 4.5, 4 out of her last 8. 3 games against the Mystics. Hasn't covered this rebound line before, but yeah, I've got no strong read on Dejanay Carrington. I am interested just to look at the points, though. It has got my attention. So I'm going to put that down. I'm going to do a bit of research and see if anything screams out to me. A couple of Google searches, perhaps. Who knows? She might be from Washington, right? Who knows what the hell the problem is there? So outside of Dejanay, we've looked at Brianna Jones. Yeah, I don't think anything else is screaming out to me. But look, I've got a couple good leans in this one. Let's jump into the next game and see if we can find some more value. So the next game is the Chicago Sky versus the New York Liberty. So the Chicago Sky are 7-point underdogs in this game. Talk about the Chicago Sky. Looking for their second home win to get to 500. They're 1-2 straight up this season. Key players, Marina Mabry, who let me down. Dana Evans. We got Carter, the Caitlin Clark killer, and Camila Cardosa. For the New York Liberty, they're looking for their 4th straight win. They're 2-1 straight up on the road this season. They're led by Brianna Stewart, Sabrina, Jonquel Jones, and Lainey Hamilton. So we'll take a look at those girls. Injury report, Sky don't have anybody, and the New York Liberty still without Sabali due to a back injury. If we're thinking about the prediction here, the Liberty, more talented, should be favorites. But the Sky, they did beat the Liberty on the road about 2 weeks ago as 16.5 point underdogs. The Liberty will have revenge on their mind, but they are 2-7 against the spread this season. The Liberty are 3-12 at the spread in their last 15 games as a favorite. So it really just makes sense to keep fading the Liberty, and maybe the Sky could keep them close. But I don't bet them sides and totals. I hope this game's a close one. Let's go. Let's take a look at the Liberty first. They are on the road in this one. We'll start with Brianna Stewart. So Brianna Stewart, her points line, 20.5. She's gone under this in 7 out of 9 games this season. Gone under in 6 consecutive games now. Old Brianna Stewart. Last game against the Chicago Sky, she scored 18 points. She's played them 5 times. She's gone under in 3 out of those 5. So I recently learned that the WNBA, they play shorter quarters than the men do. So at 20.5 points, it seems like a lot. She only played 24 minutes in that last game because of the blowout in that Fever game. This game could be close, actually. She played 35 minutes last time, and the Liberty lost that game. So revenge could be on her mind. What did she do? She only took 12 shots in that game, though. 5 from 12, scored 18 points, 2 from 6 from deep, and she got to the free throw line very well. So somewhat aggressive there. I'd probably lean to the under here for Brianna Stewart, not going to lie. I'm not game enough to bet it, but that's the way I'd be leaning. Her assist props at 3.5, 6 out of her last 10. She had 5 assists the last time they played. She's actually covered this assist prop in 5 straight games against the Chicago Sky. The Sky don't allow too many assists, but that's a really compelling stat. 5 straight games she's covered. And looking at the last 10, actually this season, 5 out of her last 9. So she's averaging 3.4. And then she's covered this in 4 out of her last 5. So just looking at the damn numbers, Brianna Stewart to go over assists doesn't look like such a bad play. 4 out of her last 5, 5 straight games against the Sky. Let's go. She's going to get the ball in her hands, that's for sure. Let's have a look at her rebound line. 10.5. 3 out of 9 this season. 10 rebounds the last time they played each other. And prior to that, she had covered in 4 straight games. So the rebounds, not a bad look either. You could look at rebounds plus assists. It's at 14. So she's covered this in 5 straight games against the Sky.
And this season, the hit rate's not great this season, but she has passed the ball well against the Sky, and she's rebounded well against the Sky as well. So, yeah, I think the assists are a good look, or the rebounds plus assists. That could be a good look as well. All right. Next up, let's look at Sabrina. Now, every time I look at Sabrina's lines, I think that they're high as shit, but then sometimes I see her rack up the stats. So her points line is 18.5 in this game. 4 out of 9 games this season, averaging 17.2 points. She scored 19 points the last time she versed the Sky. Scored 19 points the last 2 times she's played them, actually. 2 games prior to that, 5 and 4 points. If we look at her shot profile, let me just get to that game. Actually, let me look at Brianna Stewart's real quick. So Brianna Stewart scores a lot of points in the paint, a bit in the mid-range, and at the top of the key. The Chicago Sky, good at defending outside of the restricted area in the paint, the mid-range, and above the break. They're just a little bit susceptible within the restricted area. And Brianna Stewart does score 41% of her points in there, so it's not crazy. Sabrina scores a lot of her points. She's a 3-level scorer. In, out, mid, above the break. She makes that happen. Scores a lot in the pick and roll, in transition, free throws. But she doesn't have an advantageous matchup if we look at player styles. 18.5 is the line, 19 in her last game. We'll have a closer look at that last game. She played 35 minutes. That's probably the most minutes you'll see from her because they lost. She did take 20 shots in that game, 20 shots to score 19. She was 2 from 8 from deep and only 1 from 3 from the free throw line. So good free throw shooter, didn't shoot well in that game, but that volume was sky high, 20 points. She's averaging 13.9 attempts per game so far this season. So for Sabrina, even though she's covered this line well, where she's covered is in games with high volume. 17, 20, 17. This game she shot only 12 attempts, but she did make 4 out of 8 3-pointers, and she got to the line and shot 6 from 6 against Washington, who were ass. The Sky, pretty good defensively, based on all the numbers that I've seen. So for Sabrina here, I'd probably be leaning to the under in her points, 18.5. I'd probably feel more confident taking her under than Brianna Stewart. But yeah, definitely that's one lean I have. Rebounds, 4.5 is the line this season, 4 out of 9 games, averaging 4. Last game against the Sky, she did have 4 boards though. In head-to-head matchups, she's covered in 3 out of the 4. So I feel like this line is pretty tight. I wouldn't feel comfortable betting on that at all. But her under in points, that does interest me. Didn't look at her assist, did I? 5.5, 5.4 is an average, 5 out of 9 this season. Had 6 assists the last time they played. The Sky do allow the second fewest assists. I'd probably lean to the over, given the fact that Liberty should come back and win after dropping a game against them 2 weeks ago. But I won't be betting on that with any confidence. Where's my girl, Jonquel Jones? So she's probably the lady I've bet on the most so far this WNBA season because she's a beast. Now, her points line's at 14.5. She's covered this in 5 out of 9 games this season. 3 games in a row she's covered. But against the Sky, she only had 8 points the last time they played. But at the same time, only had 20 minutes in that game. Looks like she was battling some foul trouble. So last 3 games, 11 attempts, high percentages. If I take a look at her in Props Madness, just have a quick look at her style. Jonquel Jones, she scores a lot in the post and in the restricted area. And the Chicago Sky, their probably weak spot is the restricted area where Jones does score 50% of her points. But they're good at defending spot up shooters. The post up, they're not the best. They do allow some putback baskets, but yeah, she's been playing quite well lately. I know, yeah, she only got 20 minutes last time. 21 minutes, but I think that really would have been foul trouble that kept her out of it. I'd probably have to lean to the over here for Jonquel Jones. She took 8 shots. She was 4 from 8. Didn't shoot very well. If she takes a normal 11, she probably makes 5 or 6. Getting to the free throw line better lately. Didn't get to the line against the Chicago Sky, but I probably lean to the over, but not too much confidence there. Her rebound prop is at 8.5, 4 out of 9 games. averaging 8.6 on the season. She had 4 rebounds against the Sky last time. But the Sky, not a great rebounding team. And if I have a look at WNBA stats real quick, I believe they give up a lot of boards to guards. So let me just double check that while I'm on here. If we're just looking at the starters, who they give them up to. So the Sky, in terms of boards to starters, they're sitting 6th in the league in terms of rebounds to starters. If we look at centers real quick, the Sky give it the 3rd fewest rebounds to centers. So that's an interesting look. So it's not a good matchup for Jonesy over here. And if we have a look at forwards, they give up. They're sitting in the middle of the pack, 6th most rebounds to starting forwards. And if we have a look at guards, yeah, they're bottom 5, sorry. So they do give up some boards to guards, the Chicago Sky, which is what, Vandersloot, Sabrina, perhaps. They could be good looks, but Jonquel Jones, probably not a good one for her because that matchup looks like it's a difficult one. So might have to go back and take a look at the Sabrina boards real quick, knowing that the matchup is nice. 4.5 rebounds is the line. So she's had good and bad games here. Smashed the Fever up, so she rebounded well against them. As a comparison point, if we're looking at starting rebounds for guards, the Fever, they give up slightly less rebounds to starting guards compared to the Chicago Sky, if that means anything. So Chicago Sky are worse at rebounding against guards in comparison. So those are good looks. Who else did she play well against? Washington and Phoenix. If I take a look here, Phoenix Mercury, they give up the most rebounds to guards, starting guards, and the Washington Mystics, they give up the 3rd most. So the Sky are only a little bit better than those teams. They're worse than the Fever. So all the strong rebound games for Sabrina were up against good teams. She had good matchups, but at the same time, she's had a game against the Fever with 1 rebound, had a game against the Mystics with 1 rebound as well. Yeah, fuck it. I'm overthinking it. Let's get the hell out of that. But Jonquel Jones, not loving what I'm seeing from her props in this one. Let's have a look at this Lainey Hamilton. I don't even know how to say her first name, so I'm not going to. But her points line, 12.5. She has covered this in 5 out of 9 games this season, averaging 12.6. Is it just me, or do a lot of these women average the same number of points and shot attempts and stuff like that? It's pretty weird. 32 minutes a night. She shoots 1 from 3 from downtown. Taking a look here, 12.6 is an average in head-to-head matchup. Scored 9 points earlier this season against them in their lone matchup. If I'm having a look at props madness, Lainey Hamilton. So she scores a lot of her points in transition. All right. And that girl run transition and in the spot up is where she gets a lot of her buckets. In terms of the matchup, the Sky look like they're mid-tier when it comes to defending the transition. So, yeah, I don't hate this, but I don't love it either. So I have to pass on her. Sorry about it. So far, Brianna Stewart assists. Sabrina under her points, and Brianna Stewart over her rebounds and assists. Probably the main looks I have from that Liberty team. Taking a look at the Chicago Sky. Let's take a look at this freaking Mabry. Killed my BAP the other day, this woman. But let's see what we can land on with her today. Her points line is at 17.5. 17.5 for Mabry. Is it Mabry? Mabry? God damn, she got some scary looking eyes. But she's averaging 17 points this season. She's covered this in 4 out of 7 games. Up against the Liberty, played them once this season. She scored 21 points, 34 minutes a night, 14.9 attempts. Last game against the Liberty, she only took 13 shots, made 8 of them, 3 from 8 from deep, and got to the free throw line. So her volume wasn't even that high. It was her second lowest shot output so far this season for old Marina Scary Eyes Mabry. Now, looking at Mabry and how she likes to score, a lot of above the break, 57% of shots above the break. and she does a lot of her scoring within the pick and roll. Now, this team that they're up against here, pretty weak at defending that pick and roll as well. So the Liberty, pretty vulnerable defending there. And they're also not great at defending above the break either. So this is right up her alley, old Marina Mavry. So I do like that. We've got previous form this season. We've got a pretty decent hit rate in the 7 games. She's got a good statistical matchup. I don't hate that. I think the only thing we need to check here, or Chicago at home. And at home this season, 23 against the Suns, who are a good team, 7 against Seattle, which is not great, 20 against the Sparks. So, yeah, Marina Mabry at home, the points prop, I could be entertained by that. Let's go. All right, let's check her assist line, 4.5. 3 out of 7. She's averaging 4.7. 7 assists the last game against the Liberty. God damn. Liberty sitting 6th in the league. If I check the stats on starting guards, the Liberty actually give up the 3rd most assists to starting guards so far this season, 8.5 in total. So that could be a good look too, her assists, but you could look at her points plus assists if you wanted to. I've got less confidence really betting on assist props though in the W for some reason. So I think do I have more confidence in points? Shit, I don't know. But points plus assists could be a good look. 22.5, 3 out of 7. The hit rate's not. I think the hit rate is better for points, which is probably why I'm feeling a bit more confident. But it appears that she is a shoot first guard, so I probably prefer the assist prop anyway. Let's look at her rebounds. 5.5. My God, she can do it all. 5 out of her last 7, averaging 6.8 this season. 6 boards in her last matchup against the Liberty. If we look at rebounds allowed for starting guards, the Liberty sitting middle of the pack. They're in the bottom 6. 14.4 rebounds allowed to starting guards for the Liberty. I don't hate this either. So, another option is you can look at Marina Mabry, her PRA. 5 out of 7 games this season, she's covered her PRA. In all of those games where she's covered her PRA, she would have covered her points line, except for one game where she scored 14 points, had 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. So this girl fills it up. I'm getting Luka vibes here. So I think Marina Mabry, that PRA might be a better look than the points. It is. I do like it more than the points. So give me that PRA. Yeah, give me that PRA. PRA. She should score. She should get boards. The assists are there too. Give me that. All right. Next up, we're going to look at this queen, Dana Evans. So her points props at 12.5. It was at 12.5 the last game. I bet on it, and she finished on 12. What a fucking legend. 3 out of 7 games this season, averaging 12.4 points per game. Last game against the Liberty, she finished on 12. Like, if you could bet on her exact points, 12 might be a good number. But anyway, before I start venting, Dana Evans, she scores as a pick and roll ball handler as well. She's above the break, and she does shoot some threes. So it looks like she's got a similar play style to Mabry based on this data. Doesn't run in transition all that much, though. So I probably have to pass on her points prop because this is just too tight for me. Her assist line is at 4. She's hit 4 in 3 straight games now. 3.5 would have been nice, but had 4 against the Liberty last time as well. So I have to pass on that one too. I'm not excited by that. Next up, who we got? Let's look at Angel Reese. Reese Lightning. Let's go. So her points line, 9.5. She's covered this in 5 out of 7 games this season, averaging 10.5 points. Last game against the Liberty, she scored 13 points. She's getting about 28 minutes a night. She's taken about 9 shots a game. The first game of the season, she had 14, got a little bit excited. But outside of that, you can probably expect 9 points. She did just shoot 2 from 9 against the Fever, so you'd be hopeful that there's an improvement. But she's only shooting 35% from the field this season, 66% from the free throw line. So maybe she doesn't have it in her to improve. If you think about how Angel Reese scores in transition and looks to dominate in the restricted area, she gets points from free throws and transition. That's where about 40% of her points come from. Unfortunately for her, the Liberty, number one at preventing both of those things. Number one in terms of defending around, preventing free throws and transition buckets. So it's a difficult matchup for Angel Reese. I know she scored 13 points the last time they played, but she was a beast getting to the line. 7 out of 9 free throws. Things have started to tail off from there. So probably have to lean to the under for her points prop. Her rebound line is at 8.5. She had 9 boards last time against the Liberty, 13 rebounds in her last game against the Fever, but everyone was bricking everything. Yeah, I think it's a really high number, 8.5 for old Reese Lightning here. So I'll just have to pass on that. But if I had to bet it, I'd probably lean the over. But yeah, not overly confident in taking that. This is gotta Caitlin Clark killer. That's how I remember her. Her points line, 11.5. She's covered this in 5 out of 7 games this season. Form line's trending up, had 19 points in that last game against the Fever in a loss. She did get 29 minutes in that game, though, which is pretty wild. I'm just thinking the Sky don't have any players listed in their injury report. So is that 29 points an outlier because she was playing well? I do not know. 9.3 attempts. She did score 12 last time against the Liberty. So, yeah, I can't get a good lean on this. This is not clear enough for me. So I'm going to have to pass on that. I'm just checking to see, is there anybody else? What about, there's no lines on Cordosa, so she probably out. Yeah, I have to pass on that. But in that particular game, we've got a few. We've got Mabry, Sabrina, and Brianna. Probably the main ones I'd be looking at. Jumping into the last game, though. We've got the Seattle Storm versus the Phoenix Mercury. And in this particular game, we've got the Seattle Storm as 7.5 point favorites. So we'll start with the Seattle Storm. They are currently on a 4-game win streak. They're 2-1 straight up at home this season. Their top players are Jewel Lloyd. She's averaging almost 20 points and 6 boards. Ogwumike, god damn, that was awful. My apologies. But she's averaging a lot of points and a lot of boards. They got Skylar Diggins, third leading scorer, and Mag Bagel grabbing boards as well. So we'll go through those 4 players, and we'll talk about the Mercury real quick. They need a win to get back to 500. They are 1-4 straight up on the road this season. They've got Kalia Cooper averaging 23 points. Diana Taurasi, she just went crazy, averaging 18. Natasha Cloud, a bit of a beast. And Sophie Cunningham, not too bad herself. The injury report, the Storm don't have any players on their injury report. The Mercury without Rebecca Allen and Brittany Griner still. So in terms of how this game goes, if you're looking at the spread, the Mercury, they're still an above average team on paper. They do have a whole lot of vets. But at the same time, no Allen, no Griner does make it difficult for them. The Seattle Storm, they've won 4 straight, but they've covered in 5 out of their last 6 games. You just have to run with the hot hand, I guess. So it just makes sense to take the Storm at home, playing well. The Mercury had a big game the other night. So I'd probably be leaning that way. So there could be a blowout in this one, is what I'm saying. These old girls can't keep pushing the way that they used to. But let's talk about these old ladies real quick. Let's get on to DT first. Her points line is at 15.5, despite scoring 31 points in her last game. Line only at 15.5. All right, so taking a look at DT in this one, 4 out of 9 games this season she's covered. She's averaging 17.7. The Storm, middle of the pack in terms of points allowed. If I check WNBA.com to see how many points they allow to starting point guards, and the Storm, middle of the pack, 6. So neither good nor bad. Have a look at how they defend the 3-point line. And they're one of the best teams, top 3, defending 3-pointers by the looks of it. So DT, 13 shot attempts per game, 8.4 of those being 3-pointers. She just had a big game. So I think the under could be on the cards here. 15.5, I'm not sure if I love that. Her 3-point line's at 2.5. Shit, she takes a whole lot of threes, though. She averages 3.4 makes per game. In head-to-head matchups, she's gone under in 3 out of 4. If we look at her points, under in 3 out of 4 as well. So she has popped off against them in the past. Looking at this season, she has put together strong performances. So, yeah, probably be hesitant back in the under in her points. Having a look at Props Madness to see if we can get any insight into Diana Taurasi. And she scores from spot up shooting above the break. Scores spot ups and off screens. She's got that Steph Curry vibe happening, and free throws. In terms of how the Seattle Storm defend that, pretty much middle of the pack for all of those things. But in terms of position, they defend above the break quite well, ranking second in the league. A bit vulnerable in the corners, but Diana doesn't shoot too many threes in the corner. So it's not a great matchup for her, but given the volume, I'd probably be too afraid to bet the under. Her rebound line is at 3.5. She's covered in 5 out of her last 9, 4.3 boards as an average. In head-to-head matchup, she has covered this in 3 straight games against Seattle. These were last season, though. So don't necessarily hate that play. If we look at rebounds to starting guards, the Seattle Storm, they allow the 4th most rebounds to starting guards. So we'll have a look at DT and even Natasha Cloud. Their rebounds could be a look. This is a plus money play for DT. She's gone under in 2 straight games. Could be due to bounce back. Her minutes pretty decent, somewhat consistent. The risk there is it could be a blowout. So keep that in mind. No assist prop. She don't pass the rock around too much. Let's have a look at Natasha Cloud whilst we're thinking about the guards. And we'll start with her rebound prop. So her rebound prop's at 4.5. She's averaging 4.5 this season, 4 out of her last 9. This is her first matchup with Seattle. Her minutes, 32 minutes a night. So she's getting more minutes than DT, but she'd need to get 5 rebounds in order to cover this. 4 out of her last 9 on the road. On the road, she's covered in 3 out of 5, averaging 5.4 boards. I do think one of them covers their rebound line, but for some reason, I'm probably leaning towards the historical form and all that type of shit. So that's the way I'd probably be leaning. And also think about who they're going to be defending. We've got Skylar Diggins and Jewel Lloyd. Jewel Lloyd's going to probably put up a lot of shots. So whichever poor lady gets to defend her, Skylar Diggins probably more likely to be the passer, so does it make sense for Diana to pick her up? Natasha Cloud, I would assume, being younger, probably the better defender. We probably have to think about height and weight and all that type of stuff. So what's Jewel Lloyd at? Fuck it. I was going to look at the heights of all these girls, but look, if Diana's 41 years old, she can't be chasing Jewel Lloyd around. That's what I'm thinking. Whereas Skylar Diggins, 33, she got to have that old man game. So I'm assuming that's where the defensive matchup's going to be. So yeah, probably like Taurasi to get those rebounds more than Natasha Cloud, but I'll most likely be wrong here. But let's check her points. Her props at 11, 4 out of 9, averaging 12.3. So if the matchup is right, she's going to get some points, that's for sure. Does shoot 3-pointers, but not very well. 25% from the field. The big games that she's had the last 2 was where she was shooting 3-pointers quite well. She does get to the free throw line somewhat. If I have a look at her profile and how she likes to score points, Natasha Cloud, she scores a lot in the pick and roll as a ball handler, 34% of her points, and gets to the free throw line as well. That's her main ways of scoring. So there's a lot of buckets in the paint for her. In terms of the defense, the Seattle very good at defending the areas where this lady likes to score. So yeah, I'm not loving the points prop here for Natasha Cloud, so I'll pass on that. But the assist prop might be interesting. Lines at 7, 4 out of 9, averaging 7.6 assists per game. The Seattle team, they allow middle of the pack in terms of assists allowed. They're at 6th. And if we look at opponent assists, the Seattle Storm middle of the pack there. So 8 assists per game allowed to starting guards. DT is probably not going to be passing the ball much around. So that really leaves Natasha Cloud to get those passes off. I'd probably lean to the over, but again, I don't want to be betting on the high props. If I'm going to bet anything on the high props of WNBA, I'm going to be taking the under because you're going to have to predict some monster games here. So I'll have to pass on the assist prop there for Natasha Cloud. We then have Kalia Cooper. Let's talk about Kalia Cooper for a minute. Points line is at 22.5. She has covered this in 3 out of 9 games. So it's a very high line here for Kalia Cooper. 4 straight games she's gone under. The 3 games she went over, she scored 30 plus points. So Is this another bitch or beast? Karl Anthony Towns, Miles Turner play, perhaps? Who knows? In head-to-head matchups, doesn't have anything on file against Seattle. So Kalia Cooper, let's have a look at her. I'll have a look at her profile to see what it looks like. So she scores most of her points in the pick and roll, getting to the free throw line in transition, off screens, and spot up. So she's a freak of nature when it comes to scoring that ball. That's what all that's telling me. I want to look at her volume here. 18 attempts per game on average, 44% from the field. Only took 13 shots in the last game, but it makes sense if DT is going to go off for 31. You probably don't need to get as many buckets. Decent three-point shooter, 39% from deep, 6.6 attempts, and she gets to the free throw line as well. So, yeah, she's a cold-blooded killer. So I don't, given all that, I'm not man enough to bet the under. I'd probably lean to the over, but at the same time, don't want to take that bet. Her three-point line at 2.5. She has covered this in 6 out of 9 games this season, but only 1 out of her last 4. Does score a lot above the break, but Seattle good defending that area of the floor. So probably I'd lean to the over, but not one that I want to bet on. Her rebound line is at 4. She had 3 in the last game. She's covered this in 4 out of her last 9, 4.2 boards. Seattle do allow some rebounds to some guards. They allow 15.1 rebounds to starting guards. It looks like the Mercury are playing at 3 of them, which is Cloud, Kalia Cooper, and DT. And they could all probably get 4 to 5 each. Given DT's line at 3.5, I probably like that the most, plus the historical form. So I'll probably have to run with her. Kalia Cooper, I've got nothing on you, my girl. My apologies. All right, let's talk about the Seattle Storm players real quick. Let's talk about Jewel Lloyd first. We know that she a gunner. Her points prop, what do we got? 20.5. Let's talk about it. She's covered this in 3 out of 8 games this season. She's averaging 19.7 in head-to-head matchups against the Mercury. She's covered in 3 out of her last 4. So she has cooked them in the past. Minutes, 34 minutes, 18 shot attempts, almost 5 3-pointers, and she gets to the free throw line as well. So another player that likes to get buckets. Having a look at Jewel Lloyd and how she likes to score. Scores 26% of her points as a pick and roll ball handler, gets to the free throw line. Both of those things, Mercury is somewhat good at defending, but she scores in transition as well, and in isolation, and as a spot up shooter, which is where the Mercury are pretty soft. The Mercury are actually the worst team at defending above the break. So she does score quite a bit of her points above the break, but also in the mid range. So 3-level scorer, I would say Jewel Lloyd is. I'll probably lean to the over, but I'm not loving it so much, is what I would say. Again, it's a very high line, so I don't want to bet that 21.5 unless I'm completely sure. Her assist line is at 4. She's covered it in her last 2, 4 out of her last 8 this season. She's gone under 4 in 4 straight games against the Mercury, though. So the assist prop, yeah, I probably have to stay away from it. But here's another stat there. The Mercury allow 50 points per game to starting guards, which means Jewel Lloyd has the best matchup you could ask for. 50 points per game. So this could be a game where Jewel Lloyd actually just breaks off completely. So we've got Vivian's and Diggins, Skylar Diggins-Smith to look at, but Jewel Lloyd's points is probably one that I like. I just want to look at the lines for the other 2 girls. This is her rebounds, 4 out of her last 8, 6.1 boards as an average, but lately it hasn't been great. The Mercury also allow the most rebounds to guards as well. So we'll take a look at rebounds and points for all of the guards here for Seattle. Let's take a look at sweet Skylar Diggins. Her point sign's at 16.5. This season, she's covered this in 4 out of 8 games. She's covered in her last 2. She plays 31 minutes a night, takes about 14 shots. Doesn't shoot well from deep, though. So that's a bit of a hesitation. Looking at her profile, Skylar Diggins, yeah, she scores a lot in the paint and in transition. So the transition points, that looks good. If they choose to run, these old girls from the Mercury can't run with them. But Diggins at 33, probably not the best runner, I would assume. Look, I'm older than Skylar Diggins, so I can say that. I ain't running no more. But I think in terms of scoring Jewel Lloyd, definitely the much better option to cover her line by the looks of it. So I'd be leaning that way with her. Let's have a look at her rebounds. Does she rebound? She doesn't have a rebound prop. Her assists, 6. She's covered this in 3 out of 8 games. The Mercury do give up a lot of assists. And in terms of assists to starting point guards, they give up the starting guards. Sorry, they give up the most. So they give up the most points, rebounds, and assists to guards. My lord. Okay. So the assist prop at 6, though, I don't love it. Again, it's another high prop, which doesn't get hit all too often. So I probably have to pump the brakes on that. The other guard that they have is Victoria Vivens, and we don't have anything for her. So I'm probably gonna have to go with Jewel Lloyd here. Points, rebounds, and assists. So I think in my books, what types of trying to see what type of if I get the PRA. I think I can get the PRA for WNBA. Hold up. Let me double check that. Player market. Where are we at? All right, so I can get a PRA. So for Jewel Lloyd, I'm getting 30.5 as a PRA, and it doesn't look like a bad look. I've got to be honest with you. Yeah, so I'm getting this 30.5 as a PRA. She's gone over only twice this season, but the matchup is glorious. A glorious one against them. So she's covered this PRA in 3 straight games against the Phoenix Mercury. You can see here that the points is probably what's been banging the most. So I actually might just end up with points, even though she's got a good matchup for the others. And we can even muck around and put a parlay together on her individual stat line because a lot of the matchups are looking good there. So for Jewel Lloyd, definitely one thing I'm going to take a look at. Who else we got? I got a bit off track here. Where is this? OG. Nika. OG. Wumike. Butchered that. Wow, her points line is at 18.5. Okay, let's talk about it. Oh, is this the chick that does is on NBA and TNT? Right. I think I might be. Could be wrong. But her points line at 18.5, 4 out of her last 6, averaging 18.6 this season. Her minutes, 32 a game, 12.5 attempts. Doesn't get to the free throw line much, but doesn't shoot too many threes either. Let's take a look at Nika and her scoring profile. She scores a lot of her points from spot up and in the restricted area. So a lot of paint points for her, spot up shooting and in the post and some transition as well. This team that she's up against, though, they give it up to corner threes and above the break. They're not too bad defending inside the paint, but very bad at defending in the perimeter. Defending in the perimeter and in transition. So them young girls be running on them. I don't hate this play. This girl seems very consistent. But I do like sweet old Jewel Lloyd a little bit more. Her assist line is at 1.5. We can pass on that. Rebound, 7.5 boards. She's covered in 3 out of 6 games this season. Just going to WNBA.com, switching it to forwards to see where does this Mercury sit. So the Mercury, they're in the bottom 4 in terms of rebounds allowed to forwards. They're in the bottom 4 when it comes to assists allowed to forwards. And when it comes to points, they're in the bottom 5. So not very good defensively, but this matchup isn't too bad, I would say. So she could go okay, but again, these lines are a bit too high for my liking. So I'm going to have to pass on that, her points and rebounds, even though I can see her having a great game. Let's cherry pick and get the best ones. What's this? Mag Bekor, her point sign, 13.5. So many of these girls are the same line, 13.5. 5 out of her last 8, averaging 13.6 in head-to-head matchup. She's covered in 3 straight games against Phoenix. I'm assuming that she is their big. So I'll quickly change the filters to centers and see how the Mercury go. The Mercury actually haven't played against a pure center yet. So there's probably not too many pure centers roaming around the WNBA. But yeah, 5 out of 8. 31 minutes a night, but they are trending down. 9.6 attempts, so she does take some shots, gets to the free throw line. I think you can lock her in for 10 for sure. Rebounds, her line's at 8. Yeah, they're a bit inconsistent. Yeah, so I have to pass on that. I'm not loving it too much. No. So in this particular game, I've got DT for some points. I do like that. Sorry, for some rebounds, and Jewel Lloyd for some points. Probably a lean for Diggins and her assists. But yeah, nothing too much of screaming out to you. But look, I've still got enough props here to hopefully put some bangers in. I've just checked the clock. We managed to hit over an hour. My God, this stuff can consume you. So if you are interested, you can check out my Winnable. That's where I do post my plays. You get notified when I post them. I am playing when I do play value plays, parlays, and BAPs. That's part of my VIP. So if you're interested in signing up to my VIP, you can do that in Winnable as well. Well, all my parlays, my value plays, and high value singles, all that type of stuff, all of that gets posted in there. You can either get a $10 pass or pay for the monthly fee. It's up to you. And the reason why I put that out there is because I want to create content full time. And in order for me to do that, I need to find a way to make some cash. And with like 8,000 subscribers, YouTube is not going to pay me much cash. So selling my picks, only the more riskier plays, to be honest. The single bets I'll still share for free because I know a lot of you guys probably still like that. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Best of luck. Let me know in the comment section which one of these bets you choose to ride with. Or even if you don't choose to ride with them, which bets are you taking for the WNBA? Because I'm still learning them. And look, if you made it this far, I want you to type in the word hustle. Type in the word hustle in the comment section below if you've made it this far, because that's what we're doing right now. We hustling, still creating content, still putting up bets, trying to find an angle here because we have a lot of time to get better at this, but I prefer to get better sooner than later. So we're hustling to try to learn this stuff on the fly. So let me know if you made it this far. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Sub to the channel cause your boy's getting busy. Coming to your line from the west side of Sydney. We've got the free picks and the juice on the daily. It's all free, you don't even have to pay me.